everyone, and welcome to Stiff Peaks, a baking channel about macarons and other French treats by me, Katie Carolyn, out of my kitchen in Los Angeles, California. So let's get going. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Stiff Peaks, my baking channel. Today we're going to be baking macaroons. Yes! First things first, you want room temperature eggs, so take your eggs out of the fridge. The best way to make macaroons is with aged egg whites. You crack the eggs, separate the egg whites, put them in a bowl, cover it with a paper towel, and put them in the fridge, and slowly the water will start to evaporate out and they'll become a little bit more dehydrated. Preferably, because you really want no water in your macaroons if that was possible. But I am lazy and I am just going to take my eggs out now and not do that. To speed up the process, you can put your eggs in a bowl of warm water and it'll just get it to about room temperature. While the eggs are warming up, the oven should be warming up too, so set it to 300 degrees Fahrenheit. I do not know what that is in Celsius. 150 degrees Celsius. Yeah. And if your oven has a convection setting, that's the one you want. Our last prep step is to cut out the parchment paper, line the baking sheets, and then put something heavy on it so that they are not as curly when we try to pipe the macaroons onto them. We're going to cut out the parchment paper and put it on the baking sheets now so that it doesn't annoy us later. Baking sheets, parchment paper. I usually do 3 because I end up piping my macaroons pretty far apart. I'll have just enough overflow that I need another baking sheet and I can't just fit it onto 2. So just fit it to the size of your baking sheet and cut it. There's always a little bit of extra on the shorter side, so instead of cutting it off, I just like to fold it because it ends up being more accurate that way. Then once it's folded, you flip it over and take it out, flat. And right now it doesn't want to roll, thank God. And put the baking sheets back on top. Once your baking sheets are all lined, I like to put another baking sheet that I'm not using on top, and then I have another little baby one layered in here. And so the weight of that one should push on the top and the other 2 and make them not frilly. Now to the step that bridges the prep and the actual cooking, we need to weigh everything out. Powdered sugar, almond flour, normal granulated sugar. I use really light plastic bowls so that there's not too much weight on the scale because it is for paper, not for actually heavy ingredients. So you're going to need 225 grams of powdered sugar / icing sugar, 125 grams of almond flour, 125 grams of egg white, 40 grams of white sugar. I'm going to go grab my egg whites that are now room temperature. I'm using my mom's fancy eggs and I hope she doesn't kill me. Thank God she's not here. If you wanted to make a custard filling, keep the yolks because custard. My eggs are like normal large sized eggs. This first egg white was 45 grams. So if you're trying to figure out how many eggs you need, I hope that helps. It's time to sift. So the first sifting, I usually just do powdered sugar into the big bowl, and then I'll sift the almond flour into the big bowl, and then I'll figure out how much almond flour did not go through the sifter, and I will get a little bit more and put that in, and then I will sift it all again, and then one more time.
Rescue, we need to rescue this world from falling apart into pieces. We know what.
So you're left with a lot of chunky almond, and it's kind of frustrating for me most of the time because it is really a lot. I'll try to show you. You're not going to be able to see it. But so I just weigh that out and I determine how much more I need, and then I will sift that amount into the mixture and even it out.
Faces, expressions we
gonna be a little bit in your sifter. I don't really usually worry about it too much and try to figure out if it's powdered sugar or almond meal. So I just toss it and sift one more time. Last one. And this time there should only be a little tiny bit left in your sifter. But each time there should be something left in it. Don't forget your pinch of salt. I just put it on top and it'll be added in the end. Our dry ingredients are now sifted and wonderful, and we can put those aside because now we're going to work on the egg mixture with the white sugar. In a stand mixer or with an electric hand mixer, you're going to want the whisk attachment and a perfectly spotless bowl. Wash it out, make sure there's not a drop of water in it. That is very important for the whole meringue thing. Now you beat the warm room temperature egg whites to nearly stiff peaks. Not stiff, but nearly stiff. So when the peaks are pretty firm, they're not stiff, they're not glossy, they're not those meringue type peaks, but it will kind of come up into a peak. That's when you want to slowly add in your white sugar and then kick up the speed until you get the stiff glossy peaks. Before it's all the way done, I like to fold in just the top edge just to make sure that there's no little bits of sugar that haven't been dissolved that got stuck to the edge of the bowl. So when the top of it shines and when it's really stiff and doesn't even come out of the whisk, that's when you know it's ready. If you're going to be adding any food coloring or flavor, now's the time. So I just like to put it, before I put my first scoop of dry mixture in, I like to put my food coloring, which I have in powder form, which is just a little bit better because you're not adding any moisture. So I'll put in my food coloring, and then also if you want to put in like some vanilla extract or some sort of essential oil, now would be the time to drip it in. Scoop one, you want to ever so gently fold it in. So you're not going to fold in each one until it's smooth. You're going to basically fold it in until you just think it's like just incorporated. Just like light folds. And at first it's not really going to do anything, but it will. Scrape the sides a lot. Make sure you get into the bottom of your bowl. Make sure this is like the most important part for real. This is the most important part. Scoop two, scoop three. Scoop four. This just looks about like it's less than 3/4 of a cup, so I'm just gonna put the rest of it in. With this final folding in, you want everything to get until it's smooth and incorporated, and you want it to be so that when you lift up your spatula, you are getting this kind of molten lava, honey, still pretty viscous. You don't want it to run like really smooth. You want it to still stay viscous so that they don't turn into just puddles on your baking sheets. Okay, so since we're almost there, I'm going to take my spoon and make sure that all of the ingredients are incorporated. You can see at the top of my spatula there's totally some powdery, junky stuff that is not incorporated. Our end goal is smoothness on the tops of the macaroons. You don't want them to be lumpy or have like weird bubbles in them or anything, so here we go. Don't forget the edges and the bottom. See how this is just really viscous? That's what you want it to be. These molten lava, honey, and see how it stays connected almost the whole way? That's what you want. So now we are going to put this into a piping bag or gallon-sized Ziploc bag. Honestly, in my opinion, this is better. Sorry, not sorry. So I just have these glass water cups, and I just shove the point into the bottom and try to get it as wide in there as possible. And then you can just use your hand on the side of the bag to scrape off the excess on your spatula. You can just squeeze out all the rest of the air. I'm going to twist it like a normal piping bag. I'm going to put a rubber band around the tip of it. It just keeps everything in a nice confined space. It's good. You're going to get your baking sheets that you got laid out, and look, they don't curl. It's a miracle. You're going to want to pipe about 2-inch rounds and then leave, honestly, at least an inch between them because they are going to flatten out and we are going to once they're piped, we are gonna pound this to get the bubbles up. So leave room not for it to just have gravity pull it out, but you're gonna be pounding it. So I don't know, if you feel like your mixture is pretty thin, leave definitely more space, but I'd say make them 2 inches and leave 2 inches in between. If it's your first time, definitely leave more space than less space. So I am just going to snip the end of my bag. If you're like, I don't know how big to snip it, just snip it really small and then figure out if that's big enough. Most of the time I am more conservative, and then I try to pipe one. I'm like, oh my god, that was way too small. You'd think I would know what size to snip it at this point. So now you're just gonna wanna pipe it in a circular formation until you get about 2-inch rounds. For once in my life, I was able to fit it onto 2 trays, so look at me go. So you know what, it's always good to be prepared. Also, this is cut to the right size for next time, so I'm not even upset. You have your trays of macaroons, and you want them to be perfect, and they all seem to kind of maybe have that like swirl on top, or they're not quite even. So you want that to go away. And also, what you don't know is that there are tons of bubbles inside of here that might come up in the cooking process and make holes and lumps in your macaroons. So what we're going to do now is to just gently tap them down on your counter and try to like just coax the bubbles out. And also you can take a toothpick. If there are bubbles that come up but don't pop, you can pop them with a toothpick. So let's do that.
Rescue, we need a rescue. This world from falling apart.
So now that we've popped all the bubbles and they're starting to get that more rounded look, it feels like we should be able to just put them in the oven and be done, but alas, we cannot. Now what has to happen is they need to dry out, like no less than a half hour. Like right now the tops are shiny because they have like egg white and they're wet and it's batter. So you need to let them dry in a not moist place so that the tops will become dull, like they won't really be shiny, and if you touch the tops, they should not at all stick to your finger. They should be like dry, little leathery a little bit. So we're gonna wait, and I will see you back in an hour. I always let mine go an hour because I feel like that's just the best for me. So time consuming gets a little bit more time for you to wait. So see you in an hour. It's now 1 hour later and my macaroons look less shiny and I can touch the tops of them and nothing really happens. So that's a great sign. It means they're ready to go in the oven for 18 minutes. I do 1 tray at a time just so that I can put it in like the middle rack, have it be completely even, no surprises. If you don't have a convection oven, at 9 minutes, take them out, flip them around, and put them back in. Also, every oven is different, and so in my oven it takes 18 minutes, but at around 16, maybe even 15, check your macaroons. They should be able to just pop right off. And then you have to let them cool completely afterward. Anyway, we'll get to that in a minute. So in the oven 18 minutes. If it's not a convection oven, you gotta flip it around in the middle. Let's go. So when your macaroons come out of the oven, I like to just immediately slide the parchment paper right off because the pans are hot and you want to get them off of the baking sheets. So I just slide them off and I let them cool on the countertop. This one came out first and these are room temperature, and this one just came out and these are warm now. So they're cooling down and they turned out really well. I'll do a close-up on one of the macaroons so you guys can see, but that's really it except for the filling. So be sure to watch my next video, which will be a raspberry ganache filling. Yum. And that's what you will fill them with. So I'm hoping that your macaroons turned out really well, and if not, the next batch should be significantly better. Like the curve goes like this. It's just like you get so much better and then you like level off at just being really good at making them. Not that I am really good. I still make a lot of mistakes. But yeah, and they should peel right off and not have anything stick to the bottom and have solid bottoms. If not, that means you cook them to, like if the bottoms stick to the parchment paper, that means that you cooked them not long enough and the middles did not get cooked. So next time, cook them longer. Don't turn up the heat, just cook them longer. And I think that's it. I hope you enjoyed baking macaroons with me, and I will see you next time. Bye! Thank you so much for watching. And there we go. Super gorgeous, super cute. Really pretty way to finish them off is with like a beautiful bowl. This is adorable, like mega adorable. For now, I'm pretty sure this is super cute.